Hi, my name is Charlie Chuibaka, host of Red Road Journeys, and way back in 1988, when I got my first year of sobriety, achieved my first year of sobriety in 12-step programs, and I remember I got my token, and a person told me, Charlie, now that you have a year, if you really do this, if you never drink again, you're going to have an eventful last life. Well, 32 years later, let me tell you, it's been an eventful ass life. So this is Red Road Journeys, Red Road Rash stories. Stories are an important part of who we are, who we become, and what we learn listening to other people's stories as well too. So in that tradition, here we go. And in the 21st century, everybody flies. But going way back to 1989, I think it was 1989, I had about 2 years of sobriety. I had my first flying experience on a major airline. And holy crap, it was a doozy. If you're familiar with spring in New Mexico, you know it is like the windiest part of the North American continent. And the winds are just crazy, typically 50-mile-an-hour gusts, and up higher, oh, it's even worse. Anyway, I was flying from Phoenix to Albuquerque so I could spend spring break at my folks' place in Santa Fe. But flying was a lot different back then. I even think I recall at this point, people would still smoke, on the airline. So, because they still had the ashtrays there. I had flown on smaller planes, but just like, maybe like a 50-mile flight from Flagstaff to Kayenta, Arizona, because where my mom works. And yeah, most smaller planes are really, can get pretty bumpy with turbulence. So there I was on this plane. I think it was Southwestern Airlines, actually. So as soon as we get over the Continental Divide, all of a sudden the wind kicks in, the turbulence. And I'm not just talking a little bit of turbulence, I'm talking like, oh crap, And actually before I left on this flight, I remember talking to my roommate. I was a little concerned over that because I'd never flown on a big airline, and he was from England. This was my roommate at NAU in Flagstaff. Him and his brother told me, don't worry, Charlie, the time you start worrying is when you see the stewardesses running. I remember them telling me that. Almost on cue, we go over the Continental Divide between, like, pretty much on the Arizona-New Mexico border. It's just like roller coaster hell, because all of a sudden it's like, oh, these big old turbulence dips. I'm not talking like a roller coaster, like a little dip and you can see when it's come. I'm talking these turbulence dips were like, God, who knows, maybe thousands of feet, because we would just fall, man, and like you could feel yourself like anti-gravity and stuff. If you took your seatbelt off, you would have been like in that foot gravity or something floating around, and it was getting pretty bad. And then it would calm down, and then right when it would calm down, all of a sudden here it comes again. It's like, oh crap, and then I remember that, okay, just calm down, we're all right, and there's just a little turbulence. And I remember what my roommate told me. I could just hear him, don't worry, let's see the stewardesses running. And I thought, all right, the stewardesses aren't running. Right when I had that thought, all of a sudden there goes a stewardess, or flight attendant, running in the little aisle. I'm like, oh shit, they're running. Man, it was just crazy turbulence. And it was getting worse and worse, because it was almost like when you have like the stomach flu, and then I get the cramps, and all of a sudden as you're getting sicker, the cramps, first they were 10 minutes apart, now they're every 5 minutes apart, now they're every 2 minutes apart. It was kind of like that. The gaps between the turbulence bumps were shorter and shorter, and sudden too. All of a sudden it'd be like, and be like, oh, everyone put their things up, the books, magazines are going all over the place. And then the lady sitting next to me, right, I was sitting by the window. There was a lady sitting next to me and her dude sitting in the aisle. I remember she was really having a hard time with it. I mean, I was freaking out. Everybody was freaking out. I mean, you could just feel it in the air, in that whole tube inside the airplane. Everybody was like, oh shit. When you're on a roller coaster ride, you're like going, oh shit, But this turbulence was so deep and long that it was longer too. The gaps between the turbulence was shorter, but the turbulence drops were longer and longer, where you're like, ah! woo! Unlike a roller coaster ride, you can see what's coming ahead of you. And you might be on that roller coaster ride and there's that little calm part, right? Where it's like, all right, it's not too bad. You know, here you couldn't see that. So when it would calm down, you're still like, okay, everybody's like still tense. Maybe it'll go away, and it might be, the gap might be a little bit longer. It's like, all right, I think it's going away. It's I think we're done. You know, no. All of a sudden, it's like, you know, you can feel it rumble, and then just dropping again. It was just unending. And you know, from New Mexico, Arizona border to Albuquerque, that's probably what, a good 30 minutes or so, maybe. But all of a sudden, here it comes again, you know, just brrr, and I know that lady sitting next to me, in between one of the little gaps, they used to have the little puke bags on the airplanes and a little cubby thing in front of you, and she grabbed hers and she puked in it, and I was like, oh shit, you know, she got sick, and oh man, it was stinky, it was really bad. But you know, you don't care about that, because your only thing you're thinking is, oh shit, I'm gonna fucking die. So like those turbulence comes again, and you're not just going, oh shit, you're going, oh shit, because it just doesn't stop. You're just shaking and dropping, and oh my god, it was I really thought I was gonna die. So I figured, if I'm gonna die, I'm going to listen to something really heavy. So the soundtrack you're hearing, that's what I listened to, because I was a classical guitar student at the time, so I was listening to a lot of classical music. And just like, you know, being a metalhead, like in heavy music, the classical I liked was heavy too, so I put this tune on, Night at Bald Mountain, and it just made it more intense. I just cranked it up and on my little Walkman cassette, right? And it just made it more intense. I was like, all right, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go out to something heavy duty, man. And again, the feeling in the cabin was just way more intense. Everybody was holding on, people were looking at each other. There's probably, you know, I can see everybody. There's probably people praying and stuff like that, and writing notes, you know, I love you, I'm sorry, I was such a dick, or whatever. And finally, you know, we're getting closer to Albuquerque, but it was still pretty heavy. Actually, right before we were getting to Albuquerque, it was like non-stop, just rumbling, shaking, dropping, shaking, thrown around. I felt like I was in that comedy Airplane, man. I was like, oh, with the intense music going, oh. Man, I was like hoping like that scene in Airplane, I was like, there'd be some chick that jump out in front of me shaking her titties, you know, and I was really hoping that. Actually, I was thinking, oh Lord, please don't let me die without seeing some more titties. But it didn't happen that time. So finally, we're getting close to Albuquerque. Everybody was just butt pucker factor. Big time. Finally, we're approaching the landing, right? We're getting ready to land, and it was, as we got closer to the ground, it still didn't stop. We were still shaking, and I swear to God, the jet was like this. Actually, we were coming in sideways like this, and dropping, and we were shaking. And everybody's in there going, and we're getting closer and closer to the ground. Things were not calm. Everybody's getting thrown around, so we're getting closer, and that made it worse. That actually made it worse, because you're seeing the ground coming, and you're like dropping, and oh god, and it just that last second before the wheels actually touched the ground was just so terrifying. I think that was one of the few times. There was a couple of times. That was definitely one of the few times I thought, oh shit, I'm gonna fucking die. I'm sure everybody on that plane was thinking the same thing. Probably even the pilot. So finally, the wheels touched. And it was shaky. I mean, we're on that runway with the wheels on the ground, and it was still shaking. But we're on the ground, and once we started slowing down a little bit, and we thought we were gonna tilt over or crash or something, just a sigh of relief, man. Just, oh god, you could just feel it in there. It's like everybody, if people had auras or colors, it was like landing would be complete red, terror red. And then after we landed, it was a nice light blue color, right? Just emanating from everybody. And then once we kind of slowed down a little bit, and the pilot finally got on the intercom, that he came on and said he apologized, like he could control it. We safely landed, and everybody was clapping, man. I mean, everybody was clapping. It was the corniest thing in the world, but God damn, we were just all glad to be alive after we landed and disembarking from the terminal. There's people from our flight right there at the bar, man. You know, having a few drinks and everything, and I was tempted, you know, I mean, but I'm a sober person. So, what the hell is the lesson from this? Actually, I guess it would be sometimes we're just completely and utterly powerless over whatever situation we're knee deep in, and there's no getting out. You just gotta ride it through. Was I praying? I don't remember. I've never had much of a tongue for praying. Probably in the beginning of my sobriety, I probably said a quick prayer or two.
Let me see some titties before I die.
Something like that nature. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you're just utterly and completely powerless, just maintain your emotions, because we never make good decisions when emotions are at the forefront. I mean, if I or other people had totally lost our shit in that plane, that would have just made everything completely worse, right? Thanks for listening to the story. I have a lot of stories. 32 years of living sober. A lot of good things have happened. A lot of bad things have happened. And of course, a lot of ugly things have happened. So I'll disclose all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, Red Road Journeys. Share. Click the little bell button so you'll be notified. And we'll see you really soon.